As good developers that we are, we will want to validate form data to make sure users fill our form correctly. So let's add some validation before persisting to the database. First, let's pull in schema and rules from the validator. Import schema rules from at ioc:/adonis/core/validator. Then we will create the validation schema. Const validation schema.create. This will accept an object where we can define the schema for the title field. Title. Then schema.string. This will ensure that the title field is a string and required. We can sanitize the value by trimming it of any leading spaces by setting trim to true. Also, we can define additional rules to the schema by passing an array as the second argument. Rules.maxLength, which we will set to 255. Now we can make use of the validation schema. Await request.validate. This will accept an object containing the schema and messages, which will be an object for custom messages. We will define a custom message for the required rule on the title field. Title.required. Then the message will be enter task title. Same thing for the max length rule. Which will be task title cannot exceed 255 character. This will validate the incoming request data, and if the validation fails, it will redirect back to the page with the appropriate validation error messages. Otherwise, it will return the validated data, which we can save in a variable. Const validated data. Now, instead of making use of the request directly, we can make use of the validated data instead. Validated data.title. Before we try this in the browser, let's add a way to display validation error messages on the form so that our users will know that the form has been filled incorrectly. We are going to add it here. First, we will check if there is a validation error for the title field at if, then end if, flash messages dot as errors dot title. If there is a validation error for the title field, we will display the error. We'll give this a class of help is danger. Flash messages dot get errors dot title. Also, we will update the input field to indicate that there is an error. I'm going to copy this. If there is an error, we will add a is dash danger class. Otherwise, it will just be the input class. Now let's try this out. I am going to refresh this. and try submitting the form. And we have our validation error message. Let's try the other rule. As you can see, we get the validation error message for that as well. Before we wrap up, let's add a way to retain our form input old value. Again, we'll make use of flash messages .get. Then we want to get the value for the title field. If there's a value for the title field, we will display it. Otherwise, we'll display an empty string.